Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning.
Or if you're in Europe, good day, good afternoon.
If you're in Europe, fuck you. 'Cause your life is better.
We live in the future over here. Haven't you heard?
You live in the future. What was that song by the Flight of the Conchords? In the year 2000.
Conan O'Brien used to do a great skit as well. In the year 2000.
Oh, in the year 2000.
Or was it 3000? I don't know. Or maybe they changed it. It was really funny. How are you, man?
Good. Good.
How's the weather there to get
It's freezing. New York is freezing. It was, I'm up a lot in the middle of the night because the lady, Laverne, loves to wake me up and say, give me food. And I felt, wow, it was really cold. I actually went and got a big, really old chenille blanket and put it on the bed because it was cold. And I looked at the temperature and it was 30 degrees, which for you is like -4 Celsius.
Yeah, what is that in Celsius? That is -4. I think that's a good guess. I think 32 is freezing, correct? Or
32 is 0. Yeah.
0. So that's freezing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just under freezing. My God.
Yeah.
New York is so funny how it does it every time. It just plays such jokes on its own people. Like, it's not hard enough to live in that town in the first place. It just, and the winters just drag out so long, man. So many years of that.
Winter in New York is just depressing. Unless you're one of those snow Christmassy, love the. I mean, if you're walking down Fifth Avenue and you're in Rock Center, sure, I get it. But if you're in Queens, you're like, bleh.
Yeah, if you have a long commute to the train and stuff. Yeah, if you're in the dead center of Manhattan, you're well-to-do, you're wealthy, you have a flash apartment, you've got a doorman, who hands you an umbrella on your way out the door.
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, and whistles for a taxi. I had a doorman for a few years, actually. That was fun. That was great. But then you got to tip them at Christmas, man. You got to remember to do that.
You got to tip them big.
Big. Otherwise, they hold it against you the whole year long. They won't tell you about your mail and stuff. Like, they'll harbor that grudge.
Doormen make a shit load of money at Christmas.
They do. Yeah.
And they're in a union.
Oh, they're in a union. We're going to go back to union.
No, but they are in a union.
Good for them. Good for them.
Nathaniel with the first super chat. What is this daytime sorcery?
I put in the description, this is the sober version of the show you know and love. Because I'm literally never sober when we do iBashers, because it starts at midnight for me, or 11 p.m. It's like, come on. Not that I get sloppy or anything. I just, it's dinner time, man. Christopher Hitchens, a meal without a glass of wine is like a day without sunshine. Quote unquote. Anyway, I'm having coffee. So we're both having coffee.
I had my sad coffee because my Nespresso order didn't come in and I actually ran out. So I went to the shops yesterday. There's only 2 shops in my neighborhood that sell Nespresso compatible capsules. One is Lavazza and the other one is Peet's. Lavazza is better than Peet's. And they were both out. And I went, so tomorrow. So I had a cup of percolated coffee in a percolator.
No, you must be suffering. I'm so sorry.
It just tasted like cereal to me.
Yeah.
I had a half a cup and it was like, it just tasted I could taste the tin. Just wasn't, I need that really dark, thick espresso muck. and I need like 4 of them because I'm really pretty useless. But I got up early. I've been up since 7-ish.
I woke up this morning to another notification of my video is blocked. It's a sad state of affairs. If anybody hasn't seen it, I put out a video the other day on a Seiko watch in the style of some of my videos where I just narrate and I kind of do a whole kind of editing montage in synchronization with a piece of music. So one was called Panoride, The Dark Side. That was well over a year ago at this point, and it was very popular. And I used the soundtrack to The Hateful Eight by Ennio Morricone, and it came out beautiful. And I think I was demonetized, but that's okay. I don't mind demonetized. That pretty much happens to me all the time. But this time around, I used a piece by King Crimson called Lark's Tongues in Aspic, Part 1. And Friday night, I put it out, and it absolutely exploded. People were absolutely loving it. Everybody bought the watch. The watch is sold out now on Amazon, I believe. And not that like it's a commercial thing. I have no interest. Some people were writing saying, "How much is this guy getting paid?" I'm like, "You think Seiko are paying me? You think a huge company like Seiko give a toss about a guy like me?" Wishful thinking. But anyway, it was great. And then Monday morning, yesterday, someone came into the office in Hamburg in a place called Aviator Management. Saw a little check mark going, here, somebody's using one of your artist's music. Clicked on the video and went block. And the video is now unwatchable. You cannot see it. You cannot click on it anymore. And then I put it up again last night and then blocked again. So it's just astounding to me, because I understand demonetizing. I understand, hey, you can make money off our music. I understand that.
So just demonetize it.
So you guys take the money. It's not that much money anyway, fellas. So don't get
blockers are an aggressive move. That's the most aggressive thing you could do. And I said to Oisin privately, it's funny how the bands that don't need the money don't block you, but the ones that do need the money do. Like King the fuck Crimson.
Yeah.
I mean, I know who they are just because I'm a weirdo. You do because you're, it's a muso thing. King Crimson is unknown. If you said that to anybody under 40, they would have no fucking idea who King Crimson are.
Right.
It's just a musos, wild card band of fabulous musicians making very eclectic sounds.
Yes.
And
I'm a big fan of theirs for years and years.
Sure, as you should be.
Of course,
one of the greatest bass players in the world. Yeah, sure.
Well, a couple of them. I put out one with John Wetton, of course, recently deceased, I believe.
Yeah, and I bet Asia wouldn't block you, though.
Right. And, Robert Fripp, of course, known also because he played that Ebo guitar on Heroes by David Bowie. And of course, Bill Bruford, who also drummed for Yes and did a little bit with Genesis and so on. Anyway, great band, great music. And I was delighted to use the stuff. And a lot of folks were like, some folks went, "Oh my God, King Crimson. Can't believe you put them into the thing." A lot of people were saying, "Who is that? What is that music? That's amazing." Some folks were going, "Oh my God, that's just noise, that music." I'm like, okay. But anyway, it's just amazing they block, because it's like, this is only going to promote your music. I can't see anything regressive about this in any way, shape, or form. If anything, you'll get more fans and you'll sell a few more records this week.
Yeah, you're promoting King Crimson. And and as anybody who's a fan of Bashers will realize, our last video the other night is not online.
It got blocked because of NBC.
Because we played a clip from NBC, which is like the king of blockers. So that got pulled down. It's a blocking. Why don't they just remember the episode we did where we went dark for like a minute 30?
Yeah, because we played some Scorpions or something. Was it a bit German?
It was Scorpions, right? It was the Scorpions with the Berlin Philharmonica.
Yeah, but it wasn't the Berlin Philharmonica who blocked us. It was the goddamn Scorpions.
Was it Scorpions that did it? Really?
Yes, of course.
Oh.
I'm
gonna have to have a word.
I'm not even Klaus. A fan of that band, so that made it extra salty for me.
I'm not even a fan of that. How could you not be a fan of them? They're so innocuously charming.
Come on.
Scorpions.
Let's not get into it.
Come on.
But it's just stunning to me that You know, a few examples. I think this is something that goes with older musicians because, of course, Black Sabbath block, the Eagles block, the Beatles. Of course, that's not the Beatles themselves. It's the people who own their catalog.
Which is not the
But
Beatles.
which is definitely not the Beatles. The You know, it's a funny thing because there's been a few examples of where artists didn't get in the way of their own music, and it's been to their credit, to their, you know, to their advantage. So one example is Fleetwood Mac Dreams was used on a TikTok last year by some guy on a skateboard.
And they embraced
And
it.
all of a sudden, the song was in the charts again, and a whole new generation discovered Fleetwood Mac and that beautiful song. Another one, which predates it actually by a few years, was Roundabout by Yes, was used kind of for memes that are funny, you know, dogs freaking out at cats and things like that. But it's the beginning, you know, with the acoustic guitar. No, not that part. Well, skip forward. Oh, and then the bass. Right? I won't sing along with you because they're all going to hear something completely out of sync. But
you want to do the third on that?
Right. So that put Yes somewhat back on the map, at least. And John Anderson, the singer of Yes, was asked about that by Rick Beato, who's a guy who's got a huge music channel and faces this problem weekly or daily, probably, and has been vocal about it too. And John Anderson said, "This is wonderful. I would never get in the way. What? A whole new generation discovering the music of Yes? Why would I ever stop that from happening?" And then, of course, the greatest example that I can think of was Kate Bush. Now, that wasn't TikTok, but it became that because she said yes to, she said yes to Stranger Things.
She said yes.
Yes. To Stranger Things. They were like, "Can we use one of your songs?" And she famously doesn't want her music used for what reason, I have no idea. And they went ahead and used it. And now there's an entire generation that will sing Running Up That Hill, every lyric perfectly. 16-year-old girls walking around singing Kate Bush, which is just amazing. And she was number one in the charts all over again. So it's just fascinating why a band, especially like King Crimson or anyone who's no longer really on the map, let's face it.
They were never on the map.
I know. They were very fringe, very strange, but very
What's their most famous song?
21st Century Schizoid Man, which was used in a movie called Children of Men about 10 years ago. They were also a huge influence on Kate Bush. Seeing as we're mentioning her, they're a huge influence on a lot of people, but they've been, you know, look, I use Lizzo, the about damn time on the Carissa video. Did I get blocked for that? And she's a current artist. You know, she's probably sold 10,000 records since we began this stream, you know, and I didn't get blocked. I just got demonetized. That's fine. I don't want the money. They can take it. I used Rush on the other Seiko video, Tom Sawyer. Got 250,000 views. All the money went to Rush. I'm delighted. You know, I mean, not that they need it. You know, they're less fringe than King Crimson for sure.
You need to just go back into the editing bay and remove their poisonous music,
right?
And
make a whole new edit.
Put in Rush.
Yeah,
see what real artists do.
Well, be careful now because I just put it on Instagram and tagged Toya Wilcox, who is of course Robert Fripp's wife.
Yeah,
asking, can they please unblock the thing? Who knows if they'll pay any attention?
The excuse is always like, it's not us. But it is you, because you
could pick up the phone and call Aviator Management.
They could.
And say, hey, I think you guys blocked something that isn't really what we were hoping for you guys to block. Clearly, these guys, they're in Hamburg, such almonds, and they come in on Monday morning and start blocking shit on behalf of lots of bands. They have Aretha Franklin, they have Bob Marley, they have Level 42. They have the entire catalog from Live Aid and Live 8.
How can I have that when it's so many various artists?
Right. Well, clearly those artists signed over those performances,
For
specific
charity.
performances
Well,
to
okay.
the foundation or
Doesn't
whatever.
that make sense though? It's a charitable performance. That money, any money earned should go to USA for Africa or whatever
Yeah. Yeah.
Bob
So
Gell
take the
does.
money. So
Yeah.
take the money. Don't block it. Take the money.
Don't
Let
block
let
it.
let the videos come in, or the views of the videos come in, and collect the revenue, whatever it might be. I mean, my video by now probably would have been up to 75. By next week, it would have been up to 100,000 views. That's not, maybe on their map, that's not much, but it's not nothing either.
I don't know. I think
Yeah.
King Crimson should be chuffed if 6 people hear about them for the first time.
Right.
You know?
Anyway, it's just, I'll never get my head around it. For me, I think the explanation behind this really is there's a lot of great artists out there who, to them, the whole internet thing is very new and unusual, and they don't understand it.
Yeah.
And they just go, well, I don't really want my music out there and the kids sharing it for free. And, and they don't really understand that it would behoove them just to let the kids share it for free, really.
That's the only way you're going to get out there now, because that's all the kids do. Let's break it down real quick. Who's making money off of records now? Almost no one. Maybe 1%, maybe Taylor Swift, maybe Dua Lipa, maybe SZA, Drake. There's less than 10 artists are making major money, whereas 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 50s too, people would sell music, would go to radio, and then people would go to the shops, they'd buy the 45 or they'd buy the single or whatever format before the digital revolution. People were making money off of their music. You're not making money because what was the joke? I saw the breakdown on somebody who had 10 million Spotify streams and they got a check for $165. So
yeah,
you're not making any money off of this music, much to the chagrin of Gene Simmons and Lars Ulrich and all the other artists that bandied together and said, if the cat cannot be put back in the bag, it cannot happen.
right.
So that format, your records that you put out there, you have to understand that they're going to get copied and shared and streamed, and you're not going to be making a point or a percentage on each individual sale. That's over. So you have to find creative ways. Touring is now the way to make money. Merchandise is the way to make money. Collaborations is the way to make money.
Or your song goes viral, on TikTok.
On TikTok,
gets 30 million views or clicks or 60 million or whatever, and then it adds up.
Yeah, like what happened with Kate.
What happened with Kate? It was absolutely everywhere, and remixes over and over again, and people doing it in different keys, and it was a dream come true. I'm sure she doesn't even fully understand what really happened, and I think that's really my point. It's like, can someone younger just kind of tap Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath on the shoulder and go, dude, can we just take care of this for you? Because, you're not, I think that's really what's behind it. Sorry to say. I think the certain artists,
dinosaurs,
it just goes to, they're dinosaurs and they don't understand it. And therefore they're just going to get off my lawn about it. They're very Clint Eastwood about it. Right. Weird little kids. Whereas the new artists are like, what? You want to go ahead and remix my song and put it all over your website? Go for it,
Or just you and I. Please take our songs and remix them.
Yeah, please grab our
Please, God.
Most artists would be delighted.
Take it. Do what you want with it. I don't care.
Use it. Yeah.
That's because we're just not old enough and just young enough to realize the power that the kids have now to sharing. You can get to a giant audience within seconds now. Whereas
it's a dream come true.
Of course.
If for some bizarre reason a piece of Mr. North music, even like a couple of seconds, even if it was a joke, the piece of Yes that was used from Roundabout was kind of used for funny videos mostly, because it has a kind of a comic, when you see it with put against certain images, it has a kind of a comedy to it really in the end. Even in that capacity, even if people wanted to make fun of one of our songs, it's a dream come true, because next thing you're all over the place.
Yeah.
And if you've got 1% of those people who hear it buy your record, that's like 100 million people. Like, that's like so many people, because this is how it's absorbed. Anyway, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm sure there are people listening going, why would you make life difficult on yourself? Just use,
because he's being creative. And
exactly. That's my answer all the time. I'm like, I can go on the royalty-free sites, but all the music is really boring and dismal and very pedestrian and average and doesn't really speak to me in any way. It's perfect for the background of most videos, most channels, but you know.
Right. But what did Paul say yesterday?
What?
We were just on the phone, and Paul's overhearing it, and he goes, "Let me ask you a question. Can't you two musicians just make your own music for your channel?"
I've been asked that 100 times.
It's so funny.
Apart from the fact that I still get blocked.
Yeah, right. And then and I have been blocked
because our music is published and it's out in the domain, and somebody published it, and then somebody's got that on their list, and then somebody have to go through a process of reclaiming it, which can take weeks and weeks.
Your publisher,
Tim Wright, $9.99. Tim, what are you doing up so early?
He's on his way to Boston.
Oh, he's on his way. Speaking of long commutes, I'm on way. That's a 5 hour, right? 5.5 hour.
Ugh.
Greyhound. So there's going to be a few stops. There's a stop with a McDonald's about halfway where you'll be able to grab a coffee, Tim. I've done that commute maybe 400 times.
Really? What will we be doing in Boston?
Is that a serious question?
Should I know?
First of all, my sister lives there forever.
Yeah.
But no, mainly I'll give you one guess, and we were just on the subject. We played there a million times.
But did you take a Greyhound to get to a gig? No.
I personally took the well, obviously the band wouldn't take the Greyhound. We would do that drive. So I know all the stops and where all the food is and where you can pee and all of that, right? But I would take the Chinatown bus.
Oh yeah.
Because it was cheap as hell. And I would quite often leave the band up there somewhere on the eastern seaboard, and I'd shoot back to New York to do some business and then get back on a Chinatown bus and go meet them. I remember missing a gig. We were out with Brian Adams up there in that direction, New Haven, and all up there. And I missed the goddamn bus and missed the gig. And the lads were not happy.
So fucked up.
That's so fucked up.
Did somebody sub for you?
Colin played the bass.
Oh, okay.
And
wow,
they pulled through, but the crew were not impressed. And
what gig was that? What venue was that?
I don't know, because I never saw the venue in the end. But I remember
I went to the Jones Beach show.
Oh yeah, that was
when you opened for Brian Adams, and he played 1 number 1 hit, 2 number 1 hits, 3 number. His entire set was number 1 hits.
Yeah, there was no like album tracks in there at all.
No, and then he left out "Have you ever really, really loved a woman?" and I was so mad.
Yeah,
and that was a number 1 hit. He had number 1 hits to leave off the set list.
Amazing. He was a nice guy, and the crew, the band were so nice, and the crew were so nice. I remember doing the gig. I was doing a lot of business with the computer stuff, hustling a lot on the streets of New York. And it was at the side, it was happening parallel. And you know what? The guys can go with no money for a while, but I had Lydia to pay for. I had, kick back money back here to Italy, because Lydia was just a toddler at the time, whatever. So it was a little bit more important for me to have a side hustle. And boy, did I have a side hustle, it was mania. But I remember stepping off the stage. It was in somewhere up there, big gig. That's when my in-ears kept popping out. And they decided to stick an actual PA system in front of me because they couldn't keep the in-ears in my head because I was just going too crazy on the
Were they
stage.
not the molds? They were like the pre-molds, right? Like the
Pre-molds.
short jobs, the ones that just stick in there.
Yeah.
They
I
need
never
to throw
made it.
away.
I never made it to the molds
I thought you
level.
guys did molds for the Van Halen tour.
No.
Because
Van
Carl
Halen,
did and Emmett did, because I remember going.
you're talking about
Wow.
years after when Emmett started playing with Enrique, so
Oh,
it
is
was
that right?
absolutely a necessity. And Colin probably just
thought-
got them because he wanted them, or he was probably playing with Christina, with
I was
Aguilera.
under the impression, because I remember when you guys went out with Van Halen, one of the prerequisites, because I don't know if a lot of people know, and this might be boring to shit to people, but does anybody know what was the impetus for in-ear monitorings? Which for the laymen out there, whenever you see somebody sitting there playing
Extremely
guitar,
niche question, man. God
well, I
knows.
mean, listen, we could talk about Pence too.
We could get
Um,
niche and we could get
No,
extremely
this
niche.
is
But
it's an interesting thing.
sure.
For what reason were they invented? Before that, ladies
I
and
think it's very
gentlemen,
clear why they were invented. Just to close this as quickly as possible, I think it's pretty clear because of feedback from wedges on a stage.
right?
The
Well,
less volume there is on the stage, the more control you have over the microphones and the sound out
right.
front. Van Halen, by the way, in my story that I did, my story time when Eddie passed away, I explained that the stage did not have any markers. There were no in-ears. There was a full PA system hanging backwards facing the stage. I don't
With
know if you
who?
remember, if you ever watched that video, but I
Oh yeah.
explained how they had two PA systems, one for the front of house for the people listening, watching, and one facing back at the stage. It was the loudest, they were the loudest concerts we ever did. Anyway, let me quickly finish that thing.
Well,
I
let me
stepped off
finish
the
one thing.
stage.
Alex Van Halen.
Alex Van Halen.
He
What?
invented in-ears with
Oh, right. So you actually had an
it was
answer
him.
to it. Okay.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
it. That was
So,
all I was going to say, by the way.
oh, I see. So, yeah. So I stepped off the stage. I remember it was madness, and then the tour manager took me to a street, a remote street in the middle of nowhere, somewhere outside of Boston, I think, and just dumped me on the sidewalk. And I sat there till 2 a.m. till a Chinatown bus came by and picked me up and dropped me off at about 6 a.m. or something, or 7 a.m. in New York. Then I did the day of business, then got back on a Chinatown bus to meet the lads on the tour. Were wild years. What are we going to talk about? Pence? What did he say?
Nothing.
He didn't say anything really indicting.
Here's one thing that I realized about Mike Pence. He's not bright. It's not bright at all. And then I was told that it's kind of been the role for many years, unless you're talking about certain people, that you don't have to be bright to be vice president because it's kind of a bullshit gig for the most part.
Or you can do it the other way around, where you're Dick Cheney.
That's the only other one I could think of off the top of my head.
The real puppeteer.
He was the guy that was really running the show.
Was Kissinger never VP?
No.
What was Kissinger really? What was
Secretary
his
of State?
Of State, right?
I
forgot that.
And an evil warmongering son of a bitch cocksucker.
Yeah, the worst lot. Yeah.
Worst lot. Mike Pence was asked a couple of hard questions, and he just got reflective and gave the most non-answer answers, because for some the ego that goes on in politics is just so enormous. He actually thinks that he might be running for president in 2024, so he doesn't want to alienate the fan base of the Republican National Convention. That guy, I have a better chance of becoming president than that motherfucker. And listen, and I'm on his side, but he could have done so much incredible damage to the apparent any minute now announcement by Donald Trump that he's going to announce his candidacy. He could have put the nail in that coffin easily by spilling all of the beans on everything and just said, he's incompetent. He likes to screw people. His favorite activity is watching people fail. He refuses to pay people. I mean, let's face it. That's what that guy likes to do. He likes to step on people. He could have easily, but he did. It was just innocuous, nothing answers. He goes, let's let the American people decide. He goes, is Donald Trump, do you think he's fit to be president again? He goes, I think we should just let the American people decide on that.
Oh my God.
It
Such a
was just so shit.
beta male answer.
It was so beta male. It was so crap.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, this is going to be great, because I figured the timing is perfect. He's got a book. He's gonna start hammering in the nails. No, that guy, he is a pussy. He is. Trump is right, because he said he's a pussy, and I guess he is.
Yeah.
Okay. And yeah, Nathaniel $1.99. VP Dan Quayle couldn't spell potato. No,
Yeah,
poor Dan Quayle. He was the dumbest tool in the shed.
Yeah. It's astonishing how, less than intelligent people can get so far because of just their tenacity and their will and their ability to not listen to the naysayers and just keep on keeping on.
Yeah.
There's so much more to be said for that ability in life than actual intelligence. The intelligent people are, in many cases, their own worst enemy. They self-criticize a lot. They listen to criticism. They doubt things. They're somewhat cynical in many cases, because along with intelligence comes cynicism, I think, in most cases, I would say. And if you have any of those other traits, you ain't getting very far in life, because there will always be stumbling blocks and naysayers. Same thing goes with YouTube. Imagine starting a YouTube channel and you didn't have thick skin. You wouldn't last a minute. You wouldn't last a week, with all the trolls and the naysayers,
Here's a good one for you, Ush. Peter DeLuca, $4.99. Expecting my firstborn girl in December. Congratulations. Oh, wow. Sub or Explorer in the delivery room. He doesn't smoke cigars, but he wants to have one that day. What's your suggestion?
Well, so Sub or Explorer. Well, Explorer is kind of
appropriate,
symbolic, isn't it? Yeah. Go explore, girl, my young girl.
Yeah,
maybe that is a nice thing.
Firstborn.
Sub is a little aggressive. Explorer, I assume, it's the Explorer 1, which is a more elegant and simpler piece than the Sub. The Sub is an aggressive looking watch. So I would say between the two, go Explorer, unless there's some sort of association you have with that Sub of yours. I don't know who gave it to you, maybe, or did you buy it yourself, etc., things like that. So you may actually have more, criteria to go by, but just on those two things, I would say Explorer.
They might not let you wear a watch in there.
They might not. Okay.
Got to be all
sterilized. Got to be all clean, sterilized. Yeah. Maybe not then. Yeah. Cigars, I would normally recommend Cuban, but it depends where you are. If you can get your hands on Cuban, get a Cohiba. You can't go wrong. It's you can get Partagas and you can get all your Montes and various other things, but you can go wrong sometimes with those, depending on how they've been kept and so on. I've yet to smoke a bad Cohiba. And just go with any Cohiba you can find, man. If you want to feel like gangster, try and get yourself a big one with a large ring gauge, so it's a big fat one. If that's the way you want to feel. It's also cool if you have a member of the family coming along, maybe a brother or a cousin or someone who can smoke one with you. So it's usually good to buy two, so you can actually stand outside the hospital. That's what I did with Lydia. Emmett came along and he had a couple of cigars and we stood outside the hospital and smoked them together, outside. Ginger Hermit, $20. Wow.
Ginger. 20.
Who knew being there was a documentary? Cheers from Dallas. I was just thinking of being there with with Peter Sellers.
Oh my God.
It's the greatest lesson ever. That film is just still rings true. If anybody isn't familiar, to put it simply, the guy is just so stupid. He's a gardener. He has nothing to say. But somehow saying nothing and it's just his silence and his empty-headedness, people misinterpreted it as being somehow deep and a deep thinker and amazing. And he just keeps going from stride to stride, like in life, because people keep putting him in those places, even though he has no real clue what's going on. And I think that's so true. Like stupidity sometimes seems like an introspective person with lots of thought. And so
I mean, I watched it just recently. I hadn't seen it in years, and I first of all, I'm a huge Hal Ashby fan, who's the director of that. He made some Shampoo and Going Home and The Last Detail, Harold and Maude. I mean, one of the greatest movies ever made, best black comedy ever. And being there, the combination of Hal Ashby and him was just Peter Sellers underplaying this role to such a degree, and he died like right the second after they wrapped that movie. He had a massive heart attack and he was dead. It's an incredible film. Everyone should see that, because this guy becomes the toast of the town. Everyone comes to him for sage advice.
And he has nothing to say at all.
It's so
It
great.
it really, but also that ability to have tenacity as well. Like when people go, you know, you're crap, or oh, that was boring, and you go, that was great. You just, in your mind, everything is great, and you're convinced of yourself and so on. You're unstoppable. That is such a bigger skill to have than to actually be smart. You know,
Sure.
it's amazing.
Donald Trump, he's not smart.
He's just unstoppable.
He's just unstoppable.
Yeah, he's just kind of
he's never put together a sentence that dazzled anyone. Ever.
Yeah, anybody who says any criticism at all, you're a fool, you know, that's it. And he just keeps, you know, blasting through everyone, you know, and he wound up being president of the free world, so you can't really.
And he might very well do it again.
Again, maybe. Is he going to announce today?
That's his plan? And that was, you know, Nathaniel
again, Dan Quayle and Mike Pence, both from Illinois, Indiana.
Indiana. Like you.
Indiana. Like me. Well,
and John Mellencamp.
Who else do I know from Indiana? I know a couple of people.
Who are the most famous people from Indiana?
Well, they
Nathaniel,
might be
number one. John Mellencamp.
Peter DeLuca says Explorer 1. Yes, then I would go with Explorer 1 again if they'll allow you in with a stainless steel watch. Give it a good scrub a dub before you go in. Run it under hot water.
Yeah. So the whole Emperor's New Clothes theory has been going on for millennia, and it will continue because, you know, people appease people and they just let them run with their tenacity and their, don't I look great? Like, you know, Donald Trump thinks he's a very attractive guy too, because he's the biggest and the best, and he's himself. Kanye West feels the same way. They just think that they're so great that they become great. Because people start to go, yeah, I guess you're great.
It is true that when you voice a criticism of yourself, it is an unattractive characteristic. You know, if somebody says, oh, you look great today, and you go, oh, no, my God, no, I'm so puffy today because I was out last night.
That's modesty.
Putting yourself down. I know you feel like you're saying something modest, but people don't absorb it that way. They take it as, oh yeah, he is puffy, or he's got insecurities about that, or she, or whatever. I notice it happening as well now that I have a channel and an audience, that quite often you say something and it becomes true. And in most cases, I'm just talking about watches, so it ain't so earth-shattering or anything. But once you say, oh, this is the best watch ever, a lot of people might go, oh, that's total bullshit. Of course it's not. But some might go, oh my God, it's the best watch ever.
Sure.
They'll literally just listen to the thing you said and take it. And it works in the opposite direction too. Yeah, if you're Donald Trump and you're in the room and you have all of that confidence, it doesn't matter if you're overweight and if your hair looks like a weird bag put on top of your head or whatever.
A tribble.
It just, that guy's not when he looks in the mirror, he's got body dysmorphia in the right way. In the right way.
Yeah.
You know, most of us look in the mirror and go, oh Jesus, you know, whereas maybe we don't look as bad as we think we do, or we see ourselves in a photograph and we're like, oh, I look terrible. Yeah. That guy sees himself in photographs and goes, hell yeah, no matter how shit he looks. And that's probably the best
Sure.
characteristic you can have.
Unless it's, diabolical hubris, which is what it is.
That's what it is. You just described it. Actually, you just put it in 2 words. There it
Yeah.
is.
I mean, his like people like he's arrogant. I'm like, no, he suffers from hubris. He's just so beyond self-loving and self-proclamation and all of those things. I mean, wow, wouldn't that be great? I mean, as artistic people, I mean, I know a lot of artistic people that have tremendously good egos, but I find that the ones that are really good tend to be a little bit more modest.
Yeah.
Not always, but they tend to be. The ones that are like kind of skating on thin ice are usually the ones like, Vince Neil. Somebody
We've spoken about
crap.
this before. We've spoken about this before where we have friends who go, "Oh, I just wrote a song. It's the best song I've ever written."
Oof. Would you ever say that to anyone? Oh my God.
Never in my life.
What?
Wait till you hear this new song. It's the greatest thing I've ever.
Put it on Facebook.
Yeah, and like, oh my God, it's like that. I've never. No, because you doubt everything you do as an artist. That's your that's your thing.
Just hide.
You question it, and you, even when others say it's amazing, you go, "Oh well, thanks," but then you have your own critiques and so on.
Then you hate every
now, and I think most artists are like that. Most are. They're never that, including with fine artists and so on. They're never fully happy. Directors are always the same as well. Great directors, you always see them in interviews going, "Oh, if I could have changed anything, it would have been that scene." And everyone was like, "You kidding me? That's like our favorite scene." There's always that thing, and that's what got them there in the first place, is that critical eye. But every now and then, like 1 in 50 or 1 in 100, are those kind of characters who literally, inhale their own work. It's just amazing that exists.
We know a couple of them, and it's always sidebar. Like, wow. I wish I had 1% of that.
Yeah.
1% of it, and I would go so much further, because I just don't, and I'm amazed by them. Like, wow. Did you put that out there? It's like people who overpost, my perfect family, or people who post about this is a big one. This is why I'm not I'm on Facebook, but I don't participate anymore. I just got these new glasses, or the shorts, and they'll have a cheesecake picture, and like, you're clearly fat and clearly have body dysmorphia in the wrong way. People who love to just show off what they got when it's not so good. That's an amazing thing. And now we're saying that we body shaming and fat shaming, and we've discussed this on the channel too. It's like, when I get fat, I want somebody to shame me so I get on the fucking diet. Please remind me that I've gotten too fat.
Yeah, don't make me feel too comfortable about this.
Don't, because then I see myself in pictures and I go, why didn't anybody say anything?
I remember somebody was making an argument to me years ago about not ever wearing sweats, because sweats allow you to put on weight and you don't feel it happening.
Sure.
Always wear your skinny jeans, always wear your tight stuff, because if you overeat or overdo it, you'll feel it. You won't be able to get it. You'll feel that top button pinching your tummy. It'll be a reminder. Whereas if you do a period of sweats, which I think that's what happened during COVID lockdown, a lot of people just walked around the house in their sweats because they were stuck there. There was nothing else to do, and ate and drank because there was nothing else to do either, and watched Netflix, etc. And then once it was time to come back out into the world again, they tried to put on their jeans and they couldn't close them. But I remember
that's a good way to go.
Lockdown
did not help anyone.
Nobody came out of it well. You were just mentioning Bono the other day, and of course he's out now promoting his book. Yeah. Man, he's aged in the past 5 years.
He's spent too much time in the sun. He's all wrinkly, crow's feet.
Where does he spend the time in the sun?
Probably Saint-Tropez. Probably in the south. They love the south of France, those guys.
Oh, right. Yeah.
I'm sure he's probably in Monaco. with his cup out. Roger. Shaky, shaky, shaky. But you're not. You're having a cigar on your Greek island. What is this that Nathaniel has written to us? Shwoo!
Yeah, that's hubris probably in Latin.
Oh,
The result of you. I don't know what that is. Of course, Nathaniel speaks Latin, which is
he speaks
pretty
fluently. He
Yeah,
teaches.
he speaks Latin. Lydia's mom speaks Latin.
That's crazy to me.
Latin was a subject they used to take in school all the time here. It's about a step or two away from Italian, in fairness.
Yeah, there's a YouTube channel I watched where a guy walks around Rome speaking Latin to Italians, and they're all like, "Bull." Most. Then he'll run into some people, the older people, and they're like right in on it.
If you're over 40 in Italian, you know Latin. It's Italian with a lot of S's at the end.
There you go, right? Like Dombrinus.
Yes.
Sanctus Dominus. Sounds so great too, especially when you're in a satanic coven. Sounds even great with like a group of people saying the same thing, chanting.
Yeah, there was a proud moment actually recently. This isn't Latin, but it's Roman numerals. I know I can read Roman numerals, but it doesn't come fluently. Like I have to, if it's a big long number or a date,
MC.
It takes me a minute to figure it out. Yeah. I mean, if you put a 1 in front of a V, I know it's 4, right? You know, I get that. But we were looking at some sign, some old plaque on a wall in Vicenza. This was about 2 years ago. And I was there with my daughter and her boyfriend, who had, this was her ex-boyfriend, jazz musician, incredible player and an extremely smart guy. And we looked at that, we were reading the thing and it had an enormous date, it's like 17 letters in Roman numerals. And she just read it immediately. Like, she just goes, oh yeah, that's 1497. I was like, how did you read that so fast? That was a proud dad moment. I was like, wow, you're an educated young woman, aren't you? Aren't you?
And that's because she studied it in school the whole way?
Yeah, it would have been part of her thing. Yeah. Nathaniel, again, Greek hubris is the same as nemesis, really? Or is he's not saying the equivalent to nemesis, but above nemesis. That's interesting. Anyway, so there was no true indictment from Pence.
No,
fair enough.
No.
Like, we could never expect anything really out of Pence, right? It's like talking to Siri on your phone. She's never really going to offend you. She's never going to, say anything particularly left or right or up or down. It's always going to be center, boring, generic answers, right? And Pence has been doing that forever. Yeah. Why would we ever expect him to change?
His words were reckless. That's the most indicting thing he said, was his words were reckless. By the way, you should know that Ray said he can't stop staring at Oisin's frozen TV cycle. Turn around.
Oh shit! Sorry. So sorry.
There's a pinwheel going on.
There's a pinwheel. I'm so sorry. I didn't notice. Thank you for outlining that. Thank you. What's wrong with my internet now that my TV just decided it can't? Okay, fair enough.
Probably the server. It looks kind of cool. It's hypnotizing.
Thanks for that TV. No, it's just annoying. Buffering. Budget internet. No, I have amazing internet in this house, but anyway, look, whatever. I'll figure it out later. It's probably the TV updating. Nathaniel, no, I was saying hubris means hubris, and whatever that is means nemesis. Okay. Greek, not Latin. Okay. Oh, that's Greek. Yeah. Well, look. Can I spot the Greek alphabet from the Latin? I don't. Maybe I can now. You've just educated me, man. Is that the small
Cyrillic? Isn't that the difference? And Latin's not Cyrillic, is it?
Right. Look
That's
at that.
Funny though.
How did he type that though?
How does he type that? Because he's got a Greek keyboard. I have a couple of keyboards on my phone that I do for comedy texting. When I want to say something, kind of racist-y. I have a couple that I think are humorous. So that's interesting. Yeah, you have the Greek alphabet on your phone. Do most people listen on the radio? Because now we know we're a podcast, so I finally got that format down. But when you're watching at home, do you watch on the phone? Do people watch this stuff on phones? I'm not a
I
big
believe
phone watcher of content. Are you?
I would, yes, of course. I would imagine at this point most people are using their phones for pretty much everything. I
So
would imagine.
yeah, so I'm getting a new phone this week. I got my iPhone 11 fixed so I can get the big rebate, and I was really contemplating getting the Plus, the Max.
The big one.
Oh man, it
Well,
was
how's your
impressive.
eyesight? I mean,
It's not well. Look, here's my eyesight. I wear reading
right,
glasses. It
right.
wasn't for that. It was just for holy real estate. It just and it. I mean, guts wise, they're identical. I just haven't had a big phone in a really long time since the iPhone 7. And I don't really, when you see people walking around with big phones, they look kind of douchey to me.
It looks really silly. They are
Yeah.
huge. Also, where do you put that? Does it fit in your back pocket?
No.
Like, where
Yeah,
do you
it's too
put that big,
big.
enormous
I have the
thing?
perfect slot in my little Merce, my man bag, and it just goes in there. That's how I cut it up because there's a zipper on it.
Some people absolutely live on their phone. You see these, Instagram girls. They're making videos. They're doing all their poses and pouting their lips, and it's all going into their phone and being processed through their phone and sent to, YouTube and Instagram and so on. Some people do an entire YouTube channel on their phone. They never look at Final Cut Pro or Adobe Premiere or any real editing. They just do it all in their phone. I think for a
Wow.
person like that, they want an iPad or they want a large phone. They want all the memory possible and all of that stuff. But when you have separate stuff, you have a nice computer, you've got a laptop hanging around, you've got an iPad hanging around. There's no real need to have your phone to be such a thing. Your phone is the satellite to your main system, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So I'm
That's
the
exactly right.
same. I mean, we do a lot on our phones, that's for sure. But some people their phone is everything they do. They're masters at editing, even in the thing, and they know how to. They have all these third party apps they pay subscriptions to and so on to fix their images and so on. They get very heavily into it. And if you sat them in front of a desktop computer with Final Cut Pro, they wouldn't know what they're looking at. So for those people, I think getting the largest phone with the biggest screen.
Yeah.
Of course, these girls have to see how perfect they are in their phone. They're looking back at themselves, or they have a little stand with a ring light and they stand there and dance in their bedroom and so on. It's a fucking epidemic.
And isn't it
of that
funny how
shit.
that's not hubris? That's the opposite.
I was going to
They're just-
mention those people. I was going to mention
I don't
that,
think that's hubris at all. I think these are people that have very low self-esteem and they're just trying to feel better about themselves. I don't think they truly believe it. Because whenever you see these beautiful girls like Bella Hadid just cried on TV because she said, I should have never gotten cosmetic surgery and it ruined my life and I'm not pretty and blah, 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 blah. And
really?
you're beautiful. Wow.
Body dysmorphia.
Wow. Because she's gorgeous and she doesn't think so, And then, you get Mayim Bialik, who's, in Mensa. Mayim Bialik, for those of you who don't know, is from The Big Bang Theory and Blossom and whatever other show she was on. She's, an unattractive lady who's got a big mouth and a huge brain. She's a super mathematician, scientist, PhD, freaking astrophysicist. Who knows what the fuck she is? She's everything. She's got 1 million degrees. She is so I'm the best, And then you get these Bella Hadids like, I'm gross.
So much of it is what's going on in your head.
It's all that.
Most of these girls who start their Instagram thing, they're just staring at themselves. Like there's the girl, did you see the Carissa video that I did with Carissa, when we were watch shopping around Venice?
Yeah.
Did you see that
video?
It.
Yeah.
Well, in that video, at a certain point, she's like, sorry, you can cut this out if you want, but I'm hypnotized with this girl who's like out in the piazza taking photos with her boyfriend, and we turn around the camera, and there's a girl in a red dress, and she's got a big bosom and beautiful behind and all of that kind of stuff, and
She
she's
was
taking
gorgeous.
photos. Well, she went over to her in the middle of the video. She goes over to say hello, and she gets her Instagram. So she shared it with me. So we both friended her, because at first we thought we were going to stick her in the video and actually promote her, like give people her Instagram. Then later we decided not to, because the clingy boyfriend, we kind of criticize him a little bit, or how clingy he is. And we thought, no, these assholes might try to shut down the video because we criticized how short he was, or something like that. Or the fact that he was so trying to claim his territory, which he totally was.
Yeah.
We actually talked about it a lot more, and I cut out a lot of it. I had to edit a lot of it out. But in the end, we didn't do it. Let me get to the point finally. So we both friended her, and she literally just, she just stands, she's in the bathroom, and all her posts are just her fixing her hair and looking.
There's so many of them.
And it's just, there's millions of them now.
Yeah, millions.
I mean, that's got to be, do you think that's low self-esteem? I would call that esteem. I would call that look at
I think they do that to get people to look at them so they can finally feel better about themselves. Without that, they'd probably be cowered in a hole in the corner. This is their way.
I don't know. I don't know. My theory is, I mean, that's plausible, but my theory
you've
is
dated a lot of beautiful women, and you've dated some who were confident and some who were not.
We're not. I dated some of the most. I'm convinced some of the most beautiful women on earth who didn't know it and criticized themselves constantly.
Yeah,
mind you, I think we've been brought into a private moment there, because I think, look, girls want to be pretty. They do. They really want to be pretty, and they some of them are, and their most pretty moment is just after they put on all their makeup and they get their hair all done, and they just look immaculate. And I've seen several of my girlfriends I'll walk past the bathroom and look in for a second and see them actually admiring the work of art that's in the mirror. I've actually seen that happen. Okay. And I won't say anything. I'm just like, as long as she feels good about herself, I'm fine by that, And then she'll walk out and I'll be like, you look beautiful, darling. Let's head out to dinner or whatever. Right.
And in a way, you don't want her to feel too confident, because then when you get to the event, she'll be flirting with every guy in the room. Because
if you have a woman like that, you need to walk away. I mean, I used to say that to every girlfriend I had. I mean, the moment that I think you're flirting with someone else, you've just given me a signal for me to walk away, So I thought to myself, like, there's that moment that's been happening for centuries, I imagine, or maybe at least decades, that now we're being invited into. They're going, yeah, you look great, man. I would fuck me if I was a guy, right? And then they go, hold on, let me pick up my phone. And they show people what they're seeing. Because when you look in all of those videos, they're never looking at the camera. They're looking at the screen. Their eyes are a little off center. They're not addressing you as a viewer. They're addressing what they see left or right of the camera, because the camera's at the end of the phone, right? The screen's in the center. So they're looking at themselves. Right? Like, look at me right now. I mean, if you're listening to the podcast, this isn't going to help. But if I look at the camera,
look at the antenna.
The difference, right?
Yeah.
Right. It's always that people make that mistake so often on YouTube and stuff, not to actually address the camera, but to address the image of themselves, looking back at themselves. And
it's always the best possible light. It's never them on the toilet or opening up a can of beans, or it's never any real life thing. It's always like just primpy, gorgeous, pouty. Oh, look at, it's always this new dress. It's just to fortify, to get their ego where they need it to go, so that they can get out on the street and operate, because otherwise I think they just feel rotten about themselves. I mean, hopefully it will pass.
Are they looking for that little dopamine thing?
Yes, 100%.
They're looking for the validation before they can hit the street, before they can go out.
And guys aren't like that. Because, like, my biggest hate in the world is men wearing flip-flops. and cargo shorts, and guys just like throw on a t-shirt, flip flops, and cargo shorts and walk out the door and fart.
We're different creatures.
Yeah, and fart. I mean, you've
Yeah.
got guys that don't do that too. You got beautifully sartorially minded fellas that when you see them on the street, you go, that guy has a mirror. He gave a shit, not for himself, not in a narcissistic way, but he wanted to be presentable. Like,
There's
here's a
nothing wrong with
classic
that.
example. And I was talking to a girl the other day, and she was worried about what she was wearing to go to. Well, I'll say it's Paul's Italian cousin, and this will make sense to a lot of you. She wanted to go to the World Trade Center, and it was hot that day. And she goes, "Oh, I don't have something to cover my shoulders." And I went, "It's not church." Because
She
in
wanted to pay
Italy, all the
respect.
attractions have rules about
Right.
where you can go.
Right.
They're there, and it's modesty, like the Muslims. The women wear the hijab and all that stuff. It's for modesty.
Yes.
So it's interesting that they say modesty when how that relates to girls wearing slutty dresses, and we're just saying that they're not modest. Because I mean, you put a beautiful girl in a dress and she's going to look great, but some will think they look terrible and some will think they look beautiful. Modesty, hubris, interesting. See, there's in betweens, but what are you going to do? I'm glad I'm not in that game. And I will never wear flip flops ever.
I can't wear them because I don't like that thing between my toes.
It's gross, and it makes
rubber thing sticking between my toe.
Yeah, it's hideous.
I can't wear those things.
Listen,
I can wear sandals.
If you wear,
I wear Jesus sandals. I look like
you wear like Birkenstocks, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a beautiful pair of sandals, like a slide with a one strap, and they're nice, and you have a manicure or a pedicure, that's one thing. But guys, no one wants to look at men's feet on the street. They're just hideous because guys don't know how to take care of them. They don't. It's hideous. And then they come into restaurants with them on, flip flops and cargo shorts and the dirty T-shirt that they wore to the Jimmy Buffett concert the night before. Like, I mean, come on, people. It's terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's an in-between, happy in-between.
I used to get a pedicure as the weather got better. When I was in New York, I was like, okay, here comes the weather. I'm going to be getting into sandals again. I would go get a pedicure just to get it all tidied up and nice. And there's nothing I like more than looking down at my feet and them all tanned. I love my feet tanned. I just love when through the summer months, getting a nice tan and looking at tanned feet so that like your toenails are white in comparison to everything else. I just love that look. I love when I get tanned arms because I'm so in love with watches, and every watch looks better when your arms and hands are all beautiful, deep tan on them. It just the watch pops off your wrist a lot more. It's just it's a vanity thing or something. I'm not sure it's vanity. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's just pleasant to look at. But yeah, and of course, women's feet is a whole culture. Women's feet is a whole other thing. A woman with
a whole porn category.
Feet. Yeah, it is a porn category. There's one guy on TikTok going, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" He's on the streets of New York, usually down in Soho, and he's like, "Hey," he's stopping people on the street. "Hey, what do you do for a living?" Most people tell him to fuck off and they walk away. But a lot of people stop and go, "Oh, I'm in finance," or "Oh, I'm in fashion," and so on. And one woman says, she goes, "I sell pictures of my feet on the internet." And he goes, "Do you make a lot of money?" And she goes, You have no idea how much money I make." And she walks away. I was like, there you go, girls. Sell pictures of your feet. The doctor one time was selling, she decided to sell a bunch of stuff that was hanging around the house on the Facebook groups here. And in there were boots and high heels and things that she wasn't wearing anymore. And she was just selling off the shit cheap, And the weirdos came out, man. The weirdos came out and they were like texting her going, when did you wear them last? Stuff. Yeah. It wasn't about buying the things. It was about, I was like, okay, can I meet the person? You set up the meet at a cafe down the street.
You're ruining the fantasy.
I know, but I'm like, you're not going to meet these people. You're not,
No, you mail those.
I'll do it. Yeah, mail them, or I'll come and meet the guy. And
Yeah.
because I'm like, you're just inviting disaster. And sometimes she would just fuck with them. They'd ask for an extra photo and she'd fuck with them and show her long legs, I'd be like, okay, he just, he just used that picture right now. You do realize that, darling. She's like, I don't care. You can do whatever you want.
Listen, there's, that any girl, I've known several girls that have sold their underwear and things on.
Really? Wow.
Oh, yeah. I know a guy in the bear community that sells his worn underwear, and you wouldn't believe people, because he's kind of famous, and people buy it. I mean, there is an outlet for you if you're whatever you're into. If I'm into thimbles, I have a thimble collection, and I like to wear them. I like to put them on mannequins' feet.
Right.
You'll get subscribers to that. Somebody's got there's a fetish for everything in the world. Toilet paper fetish, paper mache fetish, coffee cup fetish. There's something for everyone.
There's something for everyone. There is.
Feet.
There was a funny, before I forget it, there was a funny meme I saw this morning on Instagram of this guy with his wife next to him, and he has a wad of cash in his hand. And he goes, guys, look at all the money my wife earned this month. Just selling fans. That's all she's doing is selling fans. And she goes, no, honey, only fans. And he goes, yeah, only fans. That's all she's selling is fans. She's like, no, honey, only fans. It's so brilliant. They really are cleaning up, though. Man, oh man, what a time to be a girl. Shit, I was about to say a pretty girl. He ain't even got to be that pretty. As you said, there's something out there for everyone. I'm sure there's a whole overweight category.
Oh,
and
there's some big
obese.
BBW,
Right?
Big beautiful women,
Yeah,
big beautiful men. There's guys with micro penises.
There's a rapper guy who's cleaning up as well. He must be well endowed or something.
Who's that?
Got it. I can't remember. I'm too old to know these names, unfortunately. He's one of the biggest, OnlyFans guys. But he's a rapper and so on. He's probably covered in tattoos and he's pulling out his stuff, I guess. I assume he is. I mean, that's
on
what
OnlyFans. It's general. I mean, like you said, girls could just be trying on alpha. I mean, I don't think I would ever do, if I was a pretty girl, I don't think I would do porn. Of course, I'm a man, so I can't think like a woman does. I'm like, yes, I do all the porn. There it is. Yes. But I wouldn't. Because as a man, I'd be like, I would totally show my pussy. I probably wouldn't. But
well, they were making a point. I think it was on Joe Rogan or something. They were talking about this too, that, be careful about talking about how much people are making on OnlyFans, because they're saying, like, yes, we hear from all those women who are they're pulling in $1 million a month and so on. But they were like, for every one of those women who kind of struck gold, there are hundreds of women who are making like $80 a month, and they're showing all the same stuff and they're putting themselves out there. They're taking that risk, and now their stuff is public and they're really not pulling in a whole lot of money. So how disappointing must it be for them?
What's the secret sauce?
I don't know. I mean, it's probably follows the same rules as the secret sauce in YouTube, as in music, as in film,
as in business,
some people,
as in anything.
Anything. Some people are just successful. They just strike gold, and something resonates with the audience, and something, a lot of people with popularity. It was some girl who was on, I think, on Dr. Phil or one of those shows a few years ago, and she was some skanky broad, and she was like horrible, and she was like telling everyone they're all assholes, and she was one of the most despicable characters, young spoiled youth or something like that, on there. And now she's one of the biggest OnlyFans because she got her notoriety from that show, and then
straight up the gee.
Yeah, she went straight onto there. Yeah. And then, of course, everybody knew who she was, so they would click on her. Notoriety is such a bigger thing,
Yeah. So she, like, take the soda bottle and just go, oh, here it is. It's just a Venus flytrap, and she's ugly. Good for her. She found a way to make money. Because
she ain't all that. She really is not. She's like a 4. She's like a 3 out of 10. But it doesn't matter. She has what you were just describing. She has that hubris. What would you call it? Diabolical hubris.
Yeah, she's got it.
She has exactly that. And fair enough. Who else we got in here? Any more comments coming in?
There's a
Lots
whole
of comments.
sidebar going on here. I love that.
They're
We
all,
missed
they're all.
we missed one of Nathaniel's, but because he gave us $4.99. Hey, Nathaniel, he's this guy. You know what? You're too fucking smart, man.
Hubris was a
He's so
trespass of cosmos.
Oh,
Okay, the cosmic rule book of the gods. Nemesis is the natural consequence. That is really interesting stuff. That's going to make me read up about that later. Send me a link.
everything that comes out of his mouth is I want to read about.
Send me a
If
link.
I was his
dude.
pupil, I'd have a big crush on him. Imagine
Yeah.
how that is when you're a teacher.
That probably happens to
It has to
him.
happen.
Yeah, it probably does.
It has to.
Yeah.
I was
I'm
in
sure-
love with my
I'm sure
math
in
teacher
private.
in school.
You were?
Yeah.
Your
Yeah.
math
It's
teacher?
probably how I figured out maths. Right. Like I'm from London. Maths. Right. Yeah.
Hmm.
That's how I figured out I was a homo. Dr.
Oh,
Malinowski.
really?
In
Wow.
Holy Cross High School.
I looked up to a lot of my teachers, but I never
Yeah.
looked at their ass.
You didn't ever? You never were attracted to any of your teachers?
I mean, male.
No, God, not male.
No, my I looked up to a lot of my male teachers.
Oh, but
like
didn't you ever want to have a shine
I looked
on
up
any
to
of
them like I look up to Peter Gabriel or to Robert De Niro or
I'm
to
not
Marlon
getting
Brando.
at that, dummy. I'm
Or,
getting at
of course.
do
Well,
you want to bang any of the gorgeous girls?
When they
Yeah.
turned to the chalkboard, I never looked at their ass. So then I never had that. With the women, yes, we had two. We had Mrs. Ryan, who was just stunning, but she was hardcore and she was very violent.
Ooh.
She was a very she would beat the shit out of a lot of us. Our schools, Catholic schools in Ireland in the 80s, unfortunately, were torture chambers. And of course, in her case, it wasn't so bad when she hit us. I remember I got a ruler. I got a new ruler. I went in and it had a steel edge along the edge of it. I felt so cool. This was a heavy thing. It was like a cool thing that came from some, I don't know, mathematician's bloody study or something. I don't know who gave it to me, but I walked in like the man. I was fucking 12 years old or something. She saw that ruler and she goes, I'm going to borrow that. And she picks it up and she used that ruler for the rest of the semester on the lot of us.
On herself?
What do you mean talking about? On us. Whack over the hands.
She used it on you guys.
Yeah, she would be,
Wow.
we would, shit. I mean, someday I'll tell a story on story time about the violence in that school. Teacher on student violence. Unbelievable. And then there was another girl, Deirdre, what was her name? She was very cute. Way less smart and sexy, but kind of bunny, kind of cuddly, kind of cute. The different kind of thing. She was heavy chested, and every dude, like, it was all males in our school. I was in Joey's school, and we were all like grunting, red-blooded perverts, all of us, staring at her in every skirt she'd walk in with every single day. I mean, if she could see the stuff that was going through all our minds, she probably would have run out of there. No, I'm sure she did.
They know.
Yeah.
So you got hit by teachers. I never got hit by a teacher.
Wow.
I went to Catholic school my entire life, but I think by the time I got around to school, that had ended, at least here. Whereas in Ireland, I would imagine
you're predating me by 10 years.
Yeah, I'm predating you by 8. Yeah, I'm 8 years older than you. So yeah,
it was brutal. We would, Mr. Kelly, I remember, he had like a cupboard he would open with all his weapons. He had leathers, usually shoe soles refashioned into leathers. The worst ones had holes in them so that there wouldn't be any air trap.
Jesus Christ.
And the minimum we would get was 6 of the best. That's what we called it, 6 of the best, which is basically slaps on your hand with the leather. This is a long leather, maybe 12 inches long. And he'd go down on it nice and tough and hard. And it would sting the rest of the day. Now, what we would do, and this isn't going to work on the podcast because you can't see what I'm doing, but anybody watching live, he would take you by your fingers here. Now, what we would do to defend ourselves, we get used to it. We cup our hand, because this is the most sensitive part right there in the center of the palm. You can take 6 of the best over around the edges, but in the center is where it really stings. So we would cup our hand like this, so we would get it across here, but it would protect the middle part. I'm not making this up. This is absolutely real. And what he would do, he would get used to the young boys developing this technique. So just as he came down with the leather, his other hand that had you by the fingers would pull. He'd pull you down like that. I'm not inventing that. It's completely 100% real. He would pull down like that to expose your palm so that the leather got you. Oh my God, yeah. I mean, I've look, someday I'm going to tell everybody about the friend of mine who was arrested for murdering several people and burying them in the mountains. And he was my good friend for a long time. And I swear to God, I saw that boy, because when I knew him, he was a boy. I saw him become a monster in that school. And there was a line in that film, Truman, about Truman Capote, when he got to know that killer from In Cold Blood.
Cold Blood, yeah.
What was the name of that killer? I can't remember.
I forget, but he was in love
Sorry,
with him.
this got very macabre all of a sudden, but I think it is interesting. There was a very good line in there where he said he kind of falls in love with that guy.
He did.
A bit, because he's interviewing him, and he kind of falls in love with him. And he says to his friend, he goes, "You don't understand. I feel like we grew up in the same house, and I left through the front door and he left through the back door." And I think that's what happened with my friend. I was beaten to shit. There was a place we called it the Cage. It was a cloakroom outside one of the classrooms, and it was just a big cage with hangers for your coats. And it was cold out there. It was somewhat exposed to the elements. Wasn't inside the warm classroom.
Right.
And we would get, one of Mr. Hines, that guy, and he had he had a smidgen, and we always used to look at his the middle part of his beard here looked like a little mini nuclear explosion. We always it was so symbolic that this guy had an explosion in him. He was a brilliant teacher, incredible teacher, an incredible wit. But once he got angry, run a mile. He beat the shit out of us. And quite often when it got bad, we got sent outside to the cage. And I've been in the cage a few times myself, and he bounced you around that fucking cage. And I remember my friend, who I'm not going to mention yet, but I will mention him someday on the channel, because he was in the newspapers and everything when they finally caught him years later. I remember looking, there was one of the windows where I could see out through the window into the cage. You could actually, at a certain angle, you could actually see in. And I remember looking out at my friend in there with tears in his eyes. And I remember thinking, this is a turning point, because that kid's going to grow up and he's going to kill he's going to kill people. And he did. There's nice lunchtime chatter or morning time in America.
What are you hungry for lunch? To go with a nice Chianti.
Yeah, horrific.
Wow. So do you think that happens? Do you think that you're not born with the potential to become a serial killer? Do you think that
I had a conversation with the doctor, with my ex, who said, no, you're born with a provocation to it. Everyone is. No matter what you think, certain things can expand something, but everyone's born. She had very, very fixed ideals about that. And I thought that was interesting. I always came from the point of view that guy was a very sweet guy. And actually his psychiatrist fell in love with him in prison. It was his psychiatrist who gave him up, actually. She, once a week or twice a week, he would see the psychiatrist. And he was actually a handsome devil. And she fell in love with him. He had a lot of goodness in him, and he was a nice guy in other ways, but he had this, but he also had family issues and so on. I don't think things were great at home either. I think he had a violent father. But no, I mean, I saw the worst of the worst happen in that school. Every time when I go back to Dublin, whenever I do, I haven't been back in a few years now, but whenever I pass, that school, man, I look
And
in
where is
there.
that school? Is it in Dublin proper, or is it
It's in a place called Fairview in
okay?
Dublin. It's on your way from the suburbs into the city centre. It's just outside the city centre. St. Joseph's Christian Brothers School.
Mm.
Ah, man, we could do a 4-hour podcast, and I could tell you stories that would make the hair stand up on the back of your neck. If you look at my brother Emmett, who we both know very, very well. Well, obviously I do, but you know him very well, and some of the viewers know him because he did all the music for Lenny, for the Lenny stuff on the Timeless Watch channel. If you look at I think it's his right ear. He's a chip out of his right ear right there. That's a teacher. Teacher took that chip out of his ear. Yeah.
And you didn't go to the police over that?
It was a different time in Ireland. Very different time. It would never occur.
Your dad didn't want to go up there and just pummel that guy's into pudding?
My parents actually were a little bit, I shouldn't say it about them, but they were, we were rascals, I was a brat. I was a brat and a rascal and a rebel. You can imagine me. I was, and I was around rebels. So we were tough to deal with too. That's not defending teacher on student violence, but it was just a different time. It was just, that was life. That was the way. That was the way it went. I mean, if it happened now, if it happened to one of my kids,
You'd go there.
Burn the
You'd be in
fucking
jail.
school down.
Yeah. Isn't that funny how times we talk about that all the time? You used to, your daughter got her period, then she was ready to go get married. And back in, not that long ago, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, people were married at 14, 15 years old. That's when they were ready. And kids got beaten up in school, and wife abuse was like, all right, like you see it in movies. You'll see it in like those million-year-old movies that you say I watch all the time. Oh, Carolyn. Oh my God.
Carolyn Martin.
Good morning, Carolyn Martin.
How are you, Carolyn? Good morning to you. An unexpected morning surprise, iBash. And we figured we'd do a daytime version also, maybe once a week.
Where we talk about the wash-up soap and, hints for cleaning. How to keep a nice house instead of porn and murder, but we're talking about murder.
Porn and murder. We got straight into it. Breakfast
is about murder. Oisin's serial friend. She's a friend. Oh, my friend. Oh yeah, is he dead? Is he alive or is he dead?
I should find out. I remember discovering, because I was running through the airport to go to New York and Dublin. And I was racing to the gate, and there was what we call a news agent in Ireland, a place that sells cigarettes, gum, candy, and newspapers, magazines. And I saw his face on all the newspapers. And I went, "Hey, that's my buddy." And his name was not Max, but I'll just say Max as a random name right now. Eventually, I'll maybe reveal the name. Like, hey, there's Max. What the hell is Max doing on the front cover? So I grabbed the newspaper real quick and paid and ran to the gate and just made the plane by the skin of my teeth, sat down, got settled, and then started reading. Man, that was a short flight to New York. I went by like 5 minutes because I'm like, hold on. And it was an entire article at the center of the newspaper. Yeah. Yeah, it was a crazy thing to discover, crazy details. But man, I saw him go through hell on earth, and a lot of us did. Like a lot of the dudes, they reached out to me recently, actually, from that school. Hey, do you want to come to a reunion? Getting everyone together.
Yeah, can I come there with a leather strap? Beat yous up now.
I mean, I was nice to the guy. I remember him, but I remember thinking, like, does this guy understand like the individuals he's bringing back into the same room, like getting us all back? Wasn't there some movie years ago? Sneakers, was that what it was called? Sleepers, not sneakers. I mean,
sneakers.
Such an idiot.
Sneakers in a world.
They're sneaking around with
they were tennis
shoes on. No, but do you remember the scene where I think it was Kevin Bacon was the violent teacher, And years later, he goes into a bar to have some food, and two of his students who he used to abuse are sitting there. And by now, they're all screwed up. And they're wasn't one of the actors that guy that Colin played poker with downtown?
I mean, it was Jason Patrick and
that other guy, super handsome guy. He was in Almost Famous. He was the guitarist in Almost Famous.
Yeah, he's on the morning show. I always forget that guy's name.
Yeah. And so they're in the bar, and now they're kind of gangster. They're hardcore dudes, and they're both wearing leather coats, and they're smoking cigarettes, and they notice who he is, and they kill him. And I remember thinking, like, if we get together, if the Joey's lads of that class and the probably the year above us, and perhaps the one younger than us as well, Jesus, if we all got together and recounted what we went through in that hellhole, I don't know. We might need some lawyers in the room.
Was it Brad Renfro?
No, look up Almost Famous.
I know who that is, but he doesn't seem to be listed here in the characters, is he?
In Almost Famous, he certainly is.
No, Almost Famous, but aren't you talking about in Sleepers? Oh, Billy Crudup. Billy Crudup, yeah.
Billy Crudup, that's his name. Billy Crudup.
Billy Crudup, yeah.
So,
why is he not listed there? Okay. Billy Crudup.
Anyway, yeah, it was a pretty crazy thing, and man, I think people can be built, they can be constructed out of their circumstances. I certainly do, but some would disagree. Some would say that maybe that contributes to it, but they had a certain tendency to be that way from when they were born. They were built, they were constructed that way from birth.
You either become that guy or you become Jean Valjean and become a
how do you feel? It just came up. I just saw a thing on Instagram again. Somebody talking about being homosexual is something learned and not born with as well. So
nobody ever tried to get in me knickers ever. No one.
Right.
I was never abused and I am a product of the Catholic school system. I was an altar boy for 10 years. No,
I was never. An altar boy too.
Never. No one ever. There was none of that. None of it. No, I just fancied the lads. That's it. That's what just happened. Secretly for years, because I'm of the age where you had to keep it private for a long time. And now you can just come straight out and say, hey, I'm a flower. I'm a string bean.
You'd be surprised how many people out there think that it's something that's learned, or
it is not learned. It's just it is what it is. And you pray to God, you get on your hands and knees and you pray to God to make that go away, because you don't want it, because the inherent problems that come along with it. I mean, not now, especially now. You could do, unless you're in Iran,
right?
Because what did
Ahmadinejad said, we don't have them here in America. Yeah,
right, because they're dead. Because you kill
Alabama.
Them. Right. I mean, the people, like Shakespeare said, "Thou doth protest too much." Generally, when people are, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, they're getting it, in the keister behind the barn. So I think a lot of people are repressed and they don't want to deal with it, and that's their whatever. That's their misery. You can have it, but it is not something that is learned. It's just something that's there. There's nothing you can do about it. As for, I can't kill bugs, except for mosquitoes. They must die. But if I find a bug in my house, a fly, I catch it and I put it out, because I just feel that I don't have the right on this earth to take life away. I just think life is too precious on every level. Unless you're a mosquito.
Right.
I was watching this crossing the street the other day after feeding my neighbor's cats, coming from all the towers in Long Island City, and the streets are cobblestone. They're actually lovely roads down there. They put, it's kind of European. And I saw it was raining, and I'm walking across the street, and I see this mouse come out of the, across the street real quick, and a car ran right over him. And I was like, wow, that's life. I saw him just get run over. As the mouse crossing the street. And it affected me so deeply about how life is so fleeting. I found out my childhood friend died yesterday from a heart attack. Turns out he had ALS, we're the same age. I'm 2 months older than him. I think life is
Right.
so precious. I can't
Yes.
imagine anybody having the mindset that they have the right to take another person's life.
Sure.
I will never fathom that. However, and we've discussed this before, and this is a whole powder keg, and I won't get into it. I think people are born bad machines. I do. I think we're born how we're going to be. And yeah, there could be some external influences, but people who rape children or your daughters or all that stuff, you're a bad machine. And I don't mind if they gash you. I really don't.
I often feel like, again, it's a long discussion to have. It's very
Yeah, it
interesting.
is.
I'm not negating what you say. And if you spoke about this with the doctor, she would have agreed 100% that it's just programming. It's built in, and it might get repressed, or it might get fixed, ironed out because of a nice, warm environment and a good, loving family and morals, or maybe you find religion or God knows what. But I often thought, well, isn't it said that most of the personality, like 80% of the personality, is built in the first 2 years? That everything about your environment and the way you absorb it in the first 2 years is most of your personality. Anything then after is just fluff on top of that. So, that's interesting stuff as well. The original OC is watching. Great to have you here, man. Upvote for the best show on YouTube. And don't forget to upvote for this show, too.
Upvote.
He's great,
But
man.
That's pretty good.
We may as well mention Tim Wright's show. Yeah.
Timmy's going to Boston for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, he's always out on the road, like meeting viewers of the channel and so on. Good for him, man.
Yeah, when it comes to the cosmic sauce, I don't think there's any one particular equation that equals anything, because people come from beautiful homes and they murder people and they beat their wives and they become addicts and all kinds of things. And then there are people that come from the worst poverty that become the Pope. Or become some anointed one, or their charitable work in their hearts, because it's all an influence, but I think people are just born what they're going to be. I think your heart and your soul that's why maybe reincarnation is a real thing. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm starting to really begin to think that the rare earth of thing that you discuss a lot more than I do. Maybe that's true. Maybe
what about unique Earth?
Unique Earth. Maybe we're just unique. Maybe
well, man, you just went from that stuff to.
Well, no, I'm going to put it together.
Okay.
Maybe let's see. That we're all that there is, and maybe we're just a constant recyclement of souls. Maybe maybe we are the epicenter of. Maybe we're the only life. So maybe whatever the great creator is, whomever that might be, maybe reincarnation is real. Maybe you are the sum of. Sorry, I have a bad cable. I got to replace that. Maybe you are the sum of many lives, and each and every incarnation is going to be to get to your final outcome. I don't know.
A lot of people believe exactly.
They do.
What you
I know a lot of people who believe that, and I always think, you're dead. You're dead. I've always felt that way. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in the afterlife. I think clairvoyance and numerology, I think it's all bullshit. I don't believe in any of it. Good for you if you do. I'm not going to slag you, but I just think I have friends that go to mediums, and it's just a fucking parlor trick. It's just, come on, people. You watch these guys on TV, and I'm such a cynic, and I've always been. But
have you ever seen that You Will Meet a Tall Dark Stranger?
Yeah,
this is very good. This is so clever.
Yeah.
You will meet a tall dark stranger.
Sure, that's a great one. That's a great Woody movie.
Yeah, Woody is hit and miss in the past while.
More hit than miss. I mean, ever since what was the Wimbledon one? What was that called?
That was Match Point.
Match Point. That was the beginning of the new era of Woody.
Right.
Because then
I follow him on Facebook and everything, and he's filming right now in Paris again. And his cinematographer is Vittorio Storaro. So there's photos of him and Storaro walking around getting lighting, right? I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be good. Don't let me
Is this a
down.
new one or it's
It's
out
a
yet?
new one. They're filming right
Oh,
now.
they're filming with Serrato. Wow, that's great. And
And
Serrato used to work with Spielberg.
yeah, yes, and of course he did Apocalypse Now as his
Of
greatest
course.
work. They
What did
actually
he do
left
for
out what he
Spielberg?
considers his greatest work.
What
I don't know
is?
what he did with Spielberg. I thought it was all Janusz with
No,
Spielberg.
Janusz's first movie was Schindler's List.
Oh, that was his first one.
Yeah.
You always know Janusz because it's always he always has that bright glow from windows in the background that
Mm.
almost covers the main characters. That's Janusz.
Oh.
Anyway, yes, I guess to wrap that up, yeah, well, it is an interesting idea. If you want to talk about, the fact that we could be the only intelligent life in the universe, some people would laugh at that idea. I've pondered this subject for a very, very long time. I've looked at all the possible answers to Fermi's paradox.
Mm.
I've looked at the Drake equation and all of that. And yeah, the two that I gravitate toward most. Look, we'd love to think that the universe is full of aliens and they're so much more advanced than we, and it's cool shit to think about. But the truth is, if it's out there, we'll never fucking meet it, I don't think. And it's very possible that we are alone in the universe. It just is. You know what I mean? The criteria, the number of things that had to happen for intelligent life to occur on the earth they may outnumber the possibilities, may outnumber the solar systems that are out there. It may be
Sure.
that large a number. The stage between single cellular life and multicellular life took millions of years, and that was the beginning. We still don't know the origin of life. We still have no idea what the origin of life is. If we ever discover that, then maybe we can come up with an educated guess about other life in the universe. And I'm talking about any sort of life, let alone intelligent, space
Microbial, yeah.
colonizing, interstellar life. Totally other thing.
Totally other thing.
The two answers. I mean, Fermi's paradox has about like 1,000 different answers to it, but the two that I liked the most. Not that I liked them, but I gravitated toward them. One was unique Earth, and that is you need a bit like you've got thousands and thousands of pores all over your body in your skin, but every now and then one of them breaks out and you get a pimple. Okay, but if you only had 2 or 3 pores on your entire body, it would be so unlikely that one of them would get a pimple. You need to have 100,000 all over you for one of them to become the anomaly. Mm-hmm. So in the same way, you may need an expansive, enormous universe for one to have that exact right, perfect balance, right? To make somebody is mentioning, did I just see Arthur C. Clarke? Yes. I love this quote. Show enough. 2 possibilities exist.
Yes, famous quote.
Can I quote it first? Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Amazing. And it's true. The other one, of course, was the Great Filter. And the Great Filter was that, yes, they're out there, but before they get to be space colonizing, they blow themselves up.
Yeah.
And the big question is, what side are we on? Are we through the filter? Was Oppenheimer's bomb the moment of truth? And we made it past that, and now we only have great things to look forward to? Or have we yet to discover the energy source that would make us space colonizing, bring us out of this solar system, let alone getting off the Earth, successfully, which we do extremely rarely, but getting out there beyond our solar system? Have we yet to encounter that energy source? And when we do find it, will it blow up in our face? Just like Jay Leno's car. Sorry, there's a horrible segue. So is Jay Leno okay? Is he in hospital?
He's stable, and he's tweeting from his bedside. He was working on one of his many, many cars in Jay Leno's garage, and apparently, I guess they were trying to start it, and it exploded, and he got gasoline burns on his face and hands. Man. But he's doing well. He says he needs about 2 weeks to recover. But wow, that's I guess
to the
he
engine
works on
room.
his own cars. Look out, getting his hands dirty.
He's a true enthusiast. That guy.
Oh God, he's got his own show, Jay Leno's Garage, and it's great. And it's not just flash cars. There's a lot of dumpers, a lot of flivvers, which is a great word for an old car. A flivver. Do you know where that comes from?
Oh, flivver.
Fascinating rhythm, you got me on the go. Fascinating rhythm, you're like a flivver. It was just a term in the early part of the automobile, timeline, where an old used car was called a flivver. So he collects those too, like the discarded Model Ts and Model As and just secondhand cars. Of course, he's got Lamborghinis and flash cars too, but he's truly an enthusiast. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what, and to bounce back real quick, and then I'll get off the subject, is I love, because I have this new unique Earth kind of bent, like, yeah, you're probably right. I can't even watch shit about like the Kardashev scale anymore, because I used to love that stuff. Like, we're not even a 1, we're like a 0.4 on the Kardashev scale, is like how we use energy. And, I know what it is for the audience. Like do we use the energy of the planet, the energy of the sun, the energy of the universe? We don't fucking use anything. We're so shit.
We're pretty bad. We are. Well, I mean, we're surrounded by an electromagnetic field of epic proportions. And we still don't really know how to, other than pulling out a compass out of our pocket, we don't really know how to manipulate this incredible electromagnetic field. It's coming, they're doing new studies now that reveal that certain animals that can't see it, that don't use their eyes very much or operate in the dark, like bats and so on, may actually have magnetic particles somewhere in their ears or nose or behind their eyes that are actually moving because of their orientation. And they're actually, so in other words, they're interacting with the electromagnetic field of the planet Earth. We don't have that sense. What we see with our eyes is such a small part of the color spectrum in reality. It is a tiny part of it. And certain other animals, and of course, certain equipment that we've built allows us to see the rest of the spectrum, or a lot of the rest of the spectrum. But yeah, we're pretty awful. Yeah, we burn fossil fuels and shit like that. It's really bad, like ratio. We don't, the problem with burning fossil fuels is the amount of energy we're extracting versus the amount of shit we leave behind us to do crazy. It is awful. If anything, nuclear fusion and fission is the most efficient. It's just when shit goes wrong, it leaves a huge mess. But nuclear, not just proliferation, but energy using nuclear sources is one of the cleanest, and you might say gives the best dividend from the produce used. But of course, it's because of Chernobyl and Fukushima and so on, it's got a really bad reputation. But yeah, you're right. I mean, we could. Not for nothing, when people talk about flying saucers, the idea of the flying saucers, that it is a round shape using the electromagnetic field of the Earth to fly, at incredible speeds across the atmosphere, right? That was where the whole idea came from, is that they would use this clean, invisible energy that gave 100% output and left no trail behind it.
Amazing. Yeah. Which is not dependable, because 1, there's no magnetic field in outer space,
right?
And 2, like, we're the luck of the draw. Mars doesn't have one.
Well, there are a lot of energies that we haven't found yet. That's the big question.
Dark matter.
Yeah, we don't know what dark matter is. For all we know, that is an energy. That's an energy that we haven't been able to tap into yet. Perhaps that's what it all is. We're staring at it, but we can't see really what it is. Think about electromagnetic force. It's been sitting around there since the dawn of time, and we only figured it out like 150 years ago.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff we haven't figured out yet.
Thomas Faraday.
Faraday.
He put a coil around a magnet and went, "Hold on, what's happening? what's going on?" And now we use it for absolutely everything in our world.
Sure. It's like if Da Vinci didn't cut up those cadavers, we wouldn't know how to do anything in medicine.
Did you see that part of the Bologna video with the original table there?
That was amazing.
The autopsy room.
Yeah.
And the way they decorated the whole room, like with all globes and shit, like carved out of wood and stuff. It's like, this is how we're discovering how the universe works. You know, it was really cool. That room is like weird, and it's really quiet. I tried to record in there. In the end, I went out into the hallway, the hallway outside there, to kind of talk to. But you can even tell in the video where I'm like, inside here, I'm very kind of very
in a world where bodies were stolen and cut up.
Yeah, where they found prostitutes dead in an alleyway, and they're like, okay, let's use her and see what goes on inside. Yeah,
think about the trade that they had back then. There was probably a middleman that would kill the hookers to sell them to the scientists, and it was, nobody cared about the prostitutes and the degenerates. So
is it not feasible that maybe just someone passed away, or someone was kicked by a horse or something, and they were like, okay, can we take the body, because we really, we got a bunch of students down the street and they really want to cut it open and see what the fuck is going on? Or
I'd say less of that. Some of it maybe, but I'd say less of it.
I guess it's more exciting to think about the middleman who's like, I can get you a leg by 3 in the afternoon. Yeah.
But that's
I
when
can get you a toe by 3 p.m. with nail varnish.
With nail varnish, right? I got the rest of it too if you want a discount. Or do you just want
I'll do a 2 for 1.
Yeah, 2 for 1, yeah.
On Tuesdays
body part trade.
Right? You drop them off in the middle of the night. Next morning, all the students come in, and Copernicus is there going, all right, guys, everybody settle in. Now we're gonna start cutting open. I mean, I assume Galileo Galilei got in on a lot of that too, right?
Do you think he got in on that? Yeah, it wasn't Da Vinci the guy that did all of it.
Well, Da Vinci was there, and he was there to figure out the muscles, like the stuff they discovered, and then he'd go off and paint the muscle.
Yeah,
he would. The funny thing about Da Vinci was that he was looking at these. Nobody had the bodies of the gods, right? When they started bodybuilding in the 40s, 50s, and 60s in America primarily, right? And they based a lot of this bodybuilding, especially in the 70s, spearheaded by Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the greatest physiques of all time. They were basing their physique on these Da Vinci paintings, right? Sure. Michelangelo and so on, right? Mm-hmm. They were basing their physique on but before that, no one had ever seen a body that developed with muscles that big, right? With everything so extreme, so ripped. People like Da Vinci and Michelangelo and so on were pontificating. They were looking at these muscles stripped down from a body that's been dissected. And they were going, I wonder what it would look like if it was really developed, if all of these muscles. So they were coming up with this out of their imagination. If you were able to go back in time and grab one of these guys and bring him to the future, the first thing he'd want to see, if you told him, would be to see these men that are actually walking around who actually look like this idea they had of the gods.
Oh, they definitely would. Well, yeah. Because it was artistic perfection of what he saw.
Yeah, it'd be like, actually now we have dudes who look like that with the help of steroids.
Now we do, yeah. Yeah, we didn't then. What was the best? When you see great bodies in movies in the 50s and 60s, you're like, really?
Yeah.
Because, ever since Schwarzenegger, when people learned about Diana Ball and Winstrel, it
started with a guy called Rich Park. And then there was an explosion.
Franco Colombo.
Franco Colombo, the guy who played the Hulk, Lou Ferrigno.
Yeah.
Schwarzenegger, Serge Nubret. There was a bunch of them. They were all really big in the 70s. There was an explosion of bodybuilding back then. Since then, I think it's lost a lot of its fine artistry. Now it's just everything needs to be big. Whereas back then it was more about proportion. They would get the large legs, yes, but they'd have a slenderness in comparison to the V-shaped torso. Yeah. So these guys literally look like Greek gods, right? Or sculptures, or, Michelangelo's David or whatever. Whereas now it's all just
way bigger than that.
Yeah, they got way bigger. The explosion was mainly in the 70s. If your audience watching, if you've never seen, I should say, Pumping Iron, it's a documentary about that whole period. It's kind of amazing. It's also incredible to observe what Schwarzenegger was capable of. That man is like,
oh yeah,
there's another unstoppable dude.
He's unstoppable.
That's the guy who turns his criticisms into motivation. He's one of those, like
he always did.
Donald Trump. Yeah.
Look at the careers he's had. Bodybuilder, #1 box office draw, and then politics. He just couldn't be president. He wasn't born in this country.
Right.
And that's a rule.
Dirk Diggler is asking who benches or squats more, Dirk or Oisin. Believe it or not, I was a gym rat during my teens. Yeah. I spent 6 days a week in the gym. I was obsessed with all that stuff. I used to drink protein shakes and eat ox's heart and eggs, raw eggs in the morning. I used to do all that shit. Yeah. If you put me in the gym for like 6 months, that body will come back. It's called muscle memory.
Muscle memory.
I can actually get that. Yeah, I can get that body back because I've already trained my nervous system to put the protein in the right places. You know,
until you're 50, and so you better get on that. You better get on that now.
Yeah.
Once you hit 50, it's so much harder to lose 10 pounds. It used to be like I could get rid of it by 4 o'clock.
I'm already there, man. When I had COVID last year, I mean, I didn't eat for fucking 2 months, and yes, I lost weight. But had I been 30 or 25, I would have been an absolute rake. Yeah. It all slows down. I'm already there, man.
Maybe we should just do cocaine or niacin. Isn't that the thing? Don't niacin, a lot of bodybuilders do niacin?
They do it in the last days before a competition.
Yeah.
So they go off water because they want to lose all that extra little bit of baby fat. They want to rip all the definition. They take niacin and they start peeing like crazy, and they get very flushed. Niacin will flush your entire body. You look red on a lot of niacin. It's very dangerous as well. It can speed up your heart and everything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I knew
but they do that in the final days.
Which is crazy. Dude, he'd go take a bunch of niacin and then go. He's dead, by the way. And then he would he died from taking too many drugs. And then he would go in the steam room and then the sauna, steam room and then the sauna, then go work out, then go steam room, sauna. And the guy was shredded beyond belief. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you could lose a finger in his 6-pack. It was like this deep. Like the muscles were so incredibly deep and defined.
It's hard to sustain that kind of physique, though, man. You have to be. It's a lot of work. You don't get to enjoy it when you do it. We're asking that guy who played Superman, that guy you fancy. What's his name? A British actor,
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill, gorgeous.
I don't fancy him. He's just beautiful to look at.
By the way, we mentioned Woody Allen. His first appearance was in a Woody Allen film with Curb Your Enthusiasm. David, whatever his name is,
Schwimmer.
No, Curb Your Enthusiasm. Pretty good.
Yeah. What the hell?
Yeah. He kind of plays Woody Allen's character in that. Whatever Works is the name of the film. You see, I can remember all this other stuff, but I can't remember the man's name. Anyway, that's when Henry Cavill first showed up, and he's not muscular in any way. He's actually quite frail. But then Larry David, thank you, Whole Milk, Larry David. I got it the wrong way around. Larry David.
But you're talking about somebody on the show, not Larry David.
I said Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Right.
The first person.
But then you said David, and I just thought that was the first name.
Yeah, I knocked you off because I said David. I couldn't think of it. Right. So anyway, you'll see Henry Cavill in that. He's the young love interest. And he's a pretty dude, but he ain't the guy now, playing Witcher and Superman and all. He, in an interview recently, said, because his physique was ultra buff for the Superman stuff, and it was all real as well. Yeah. And he said, look, you can't enjoy it. You're not going out and meeting people and enjoying that physique. And he says it's a terrible stress. It's unhealthy to be in that kind of shape. You need to be super ripped. You can't drink water much. You're quite tired all the time. Moving around is difficult because when you give your body the things it needs, it loses that certain definition. So he would shoot, and then the second after the shoot is done, finally grasp for air again and like not eat a candy bar, but at least drink a bloody full glass of water and not have to worry about it. So he said it's unsustainable, that kind of physique. And the bodybuilders are the same. I mean, they spend a lot of time where they build up a lot of even fat. And then as the competition comes, you know, Mr. Olympia or Mr. Universe or whatever, as that approaches, then they have to start entering the part where they're no longer building muscle mass and they're just dieting. And then the starvation in the final 2 days. And that's when shit gets really hardcore. Fucking wild. I never got that heavy into it, but anyway.
I guess if they were going to pay you $35 million for a role, you'd do it.
Yes. And that's why they do it. That's why Jason Momoa and all those dudes, they fucking do that. They're like, yeah, well, it's part of my contract. If I don't lose all the weight I'm supposed to lose, we can't shoot the film. So 200 people are waiting for me to arrive on the set in shape.
That's right, because their salary depends on it. It's
yeah.
Like a perfect example is Jared Butler, right? He, I mean, that guy is normally just a regular guy with a couple extra pounds on him, right. And he went on the 300. There's even a diet you can follow called the 300 diet, the 300 workout.
Yeah,
and he's like, fuck that, because his life was so miserable, and he was in great shape. Like outrageous shape, that guy. But because he goes, it's not impossible to sustain. And that was miserable. It's the same when Hank talks about Castaway. He goes, oh, that was hungry guy.
Oh, Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Sorry, you cut out there when you just said
Tom Hanks in Castaway. He said, oh, God, I remember that guy. That was hungry guy. I was starving. They shot all the fat scenes first.
Yeah. And then he just went, he said he didn't go too hard. He just, salads were his dinner. That's what he said.
He said he was just dying for bread or pizza. And he just would look at other people's things and just say, well, because he had to do it for a year because they
shot them a year apart.
Yeah. He made What Lies Beneath. Robert Zemeckis made What Lies Beneath in Between.
Isn't that funny the way that happens?
Isn't that crazy that you could do that? Wow. Zemeckis.
And then there was the guy who did The Machinist, Batman.
Christian Bale.
Christian Bale, thank you.
He's committed.
He is very committed. He did The Machinist before he did Batman. Did you see him in The Machinist?
Yeah, he weighs like 3 ounces. Yeah.
And then it was like, can you build up? And he bulked up like really, really heavy. And then they suspended shooting because he was a little too heavy for the suit. So then he had to slim down a little, but he's still bulky. Yeah, that guy's been, he's very dedicated.
He's I think De Niro. Yeah, there you go.
De Niro started it, right?
He definitely did.
He gained 60 pounds for Raging Bull. Then he said he'd never do it again. And then he did it again,
for Cape Fear.
No, Cape Fear was muscle, not fat. He gained the 60 pound of fat for Jake. Was the boxer he played?
Jake LaMotta. For
Jake LaMotta.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I swear to God, like recall for names is like the most unfit part of my brain. So for the old Jake LaMotta, the one that got thrown in jail for sleeping with that 14-year-old girl.
The one that's in the mirror doing his little improv.
Yeah, going whoa, 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 whoa. And of course he got the Oscar, and he of course lost the weight again, and he said he'd never do it again, and then he did it again for The Untouchables. He gained 62 pounds when he was playing Al Capone.
I've never seen that movie.
Because you don't like...
Because I hate Brian De Palma.
Brian De Palma.
I think he's just a shit filmmaker. And I've been told by many people, don't let that bother you because he barely made that movie, that it's so not Brian De Palma. And it's Sean Connery and Kevin Costner. It's like, I'm going to watch it today.
Watch it. And some of the best De Niro moments, like if you like Pacino because he goes, hoo-ha, and he goes, say hello to my little friend, and all his like classic sound bites. Some of the biggest De Niro ones.
Don't ever ask me about my business.
Right. In front of the family or in front of anyone outside the family again. I love you, and you're my brother. Well, don't ever side with anyone outside the family again. That's
Outside
the
the
one I'm
family.
thinking of it.
Yeah. There's a million Al
No,
Pacino.
there's a scene in The Untouchables, you may have already seen it, where he has a baseball bat in his hand. Enthusiasms, and he does this. It's some wild stuff, and I want him dead. I want his family dead. I want his house burned to the ground. Like, he has these big moments that are just, they kind of go down in history as powerful De Niro moments. So when he's on the screen, he owns the film. He does. But when he's, other than that, then it's, who's very good in that? Shit. Fucking, you see, it's hopeless. What about Godfather? Okay, Godfather 3, the son who takes over the family is played by
Andy Garcia.
Andy Garcia. He's in it. And
That was a good way to get.
He's the hot shot. Oh, I'll find you the person so you can home in. But can I remember the dude's name? Oh, man.
He had a really big career for a while, and then now he's just playing like Latin dads.
Yeah.
In bad musicals.
It's true. He fell off the earth.
He was like banging Bridget Fonda.
Yeah.
That guy is the hairiest person I've ever seen in my life.
No, he's not. Robin Williams.
No, he's worse. He was worse.
Robin Williams had
that scene in The Godfather,
on his shoulders.
That scene when he's in bed in The Godfather Part 3. Right. I mean, he looks like a gorilla. I mean, Robin Williams probably had hair on his eyeballs. He just had it everywhere,
Yeah,
it's crazy. Andy Garcia had he made this movie called When a Man Loves a Woman, and it sounds schlocky, but it was with Meg Ryan, and she's an alcoholic, and he's a pilot. And it was a really good movie with a good script and terrific acting. And she was good in it. And you'd fall madly in love with Andy Garcia because he loves his wife, and he knows she's got a drinking problem. He does everything in his power, but she's too fucked up. Yeah. Oh, man. Woo! You ever see that movie, When a Man Loves a Woman?
I have not. Somebody's mentioning, Hans is mentioning Black Rain with Michael Douglas.
Oh, Black Rain. Yeah, well, that's a total Blade Runner ripoff, but it's okay. And I believe it was Ridley Scott that directed it too, right?
Is that true? Well, for me, Ridley Scott directed 2 good films in his life, and that's it.
For me, 3. I like Thelma and Louise.
Oh, I like that film, yeah.
I do.
I wasn't that crazy about it.
I like it. And then that's it, because the rest of it is crap.
Dirk Diggler says, I love Damaged Women. Well, I can introduce you to a few, Dirk. Yeah. I've come across a few in my time, man. Pass them over to you. Somebody said Nicolas Cage in The Rock. Chiseled like a hot dog. Really? Oh, Diego said
he was chiseled. Yeah. He was in great shape.
He was always a fit dude.
He was always fit.
Even in Leaving Las Vegas, when he had a lot of that alcohol chub on his face, his body was, he still had a flat tummy. Shape. Yeah.
He made a movie I loved. What was it called? The Family Man. You ever see that?
Oh, that's a great film.
I love that movie. It's a Wonderful Life. I understand that it's based on that. Yeah, but wow, what a great movie that is. Tay Leone.
Well made. Tay Leone is so good. She's
so good. She's so good in it.
Well, the other great film he made was Lord of War.
Remember, terrific.
He's made the arms sales guy. Yeah. Man, movies are such good fun. I could do a whole channel on movies.
Good.
I might start a whole new channel just talking about movies. Not for it to be big or successful.
At the
just
cinema
to get
show.
At the cinema show? Why? Because it was a Genesis reference?
Genesis. Yeah, of course. Okay. What else would it be?
Why you wanted me to talk about Genesis at the same time?
No, but I'm just saying you're such a Genesis head and you want to talk about movies, just cinema show.
I'm somewhat of a Genesis head. I mean, I'd probably refer to something more cinematic. I could call it, I don't know, 35 millimeter. With that. It's not bad. Well, she can give him your black book, Hans. Now they're all going off on the thing. Yeah, well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Go get your own women, Dirk Diggler, with your 14.5-inch purple prosthesis.
Are we coming to the end here?
We are. This is
Fucking
the
hell,
end,
we rambled,
beautiful
man.
friend. The
That one
end.
there was a lot of hard lefts. I mean, it was fun, but the fuck, chasing the hard lefts are rough for me. I have to say. Maybe that's why I need
You had
wine.
most of them.
I had most. It's rubbed off on me now. Your bad habit. Hard left here, hard left there.
I was just watching at one point. I was like, wow, look at him go. The morning's good for the boy. It's like, wow. Usually I'm taking the lefts. I'm like, look at him go. Pretty good. Well, we were talking on the phone the other day, and we were like, listen, we got 111 people, and we got a lot of people. I just want to give shout outs before we go anywhere to everyone, because you guys, we just popped in on you, and I'm gonna go right to the very toppity top. Ray and James and Andrew and Scott and Cadman and Lux, and of course Martin Payne, and of course Holden Caulfield. Who else we got? We've got Nathaniel, as always, Tim Rhodes, Scott Wetzland. We've got I'm Tom Austin. Tim Wright, you're probably on the bus now, but thanks
Still
so
on the
much.
bus.
Peter DeLuca, right? Roar the Tiger. Yeah, you're the roar of the tiger, you're the thrill of the fight. Mark Gerard, Burton Dundee, Bruce G, Buckley. I mean, so many of you guys, your regulars, you showed up today. Amazing. We did no announcement whatsoever. But thanks for that. We just wanted to have a chat and see what it was like to do it in the morning. And it was a good time for all. Malik, Carolyn Martin, of course. Thank you so much for that. Patricia Teague, she was like, wow, it's 8:21 in Wisconsin. Good morning. It was so good to see you there. Boston Collector. Hey, Boston Collector, go pick up Tim Wright at the bus depot, will you? Thanks.
I imagine that's what he's going up there for.
Oh, do you think so?
Well, if he's not going to see Boston Collector, what the hell?
Go take him to go get Tim Lade, will you? Thanks. Ginger Hermit, Lucas Carrot, because he's like in a way, Tim's like the Pontiff. They have these strange women in their houses that I don't know if they have relationships with them. Are they wives or girlfriends? Because he refers to it as the roommate and
the roommate. Well, there's code for everyone, right? So I believe that's his wife.
Okay,
from what I can gather. Yes.
I don't know. I think he keeps it that way on purpose. And if I forgot anybody, thanks so much for joining us for this iBashers Daytime.
Just real quick, Mike Hammer, can we talk about the movie Sexy Beast? My answer to that, Mike Hammer, is no. We certainly can. I love that film. I love everything in that film. I know it by heart, and we'll talk about it the next time. How about that?
Sure.
Remind me the next time. I love that film so much.
Machine made me watch that movie, and I watched it, and I mean, it's not like I didn't like it, but it's like, wow, bad people.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
That's when the London Watch show last year, when I heard it was at the Grosvenor, I'm like, you at the Grosvenor?
Right, the Grosvenor.
You Mr. Roundtree. Like
You're
Smarties like Shaft. You Mr. Roundtree, like Smarties like Shaft. You're at the Grosvenor. Do the job. Do the job. It's a great film.
That's my sister's favorite hotel. Isn't that crazy? She
Beautiful
loves staying
hotel.
there. Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's not that expensive. Not that
my
bad.
favorite is in Dublin. You know, I thought that was your sister's favorite.
My sister's favorite hotel in London is that.
Oh, in London.
No, of course. Of course, in Dublin. Where else is there to stay? Come on.
Right. Yeah,
what are you going to go stay at U2's hotel? I heard that's shite. The Clarence. I heard that's
the Clarence is not great. There's one room, there's a suite up at the top where they actually shot a video when they were much younger. And you can watch the video and look at your suite. You know, it's kind of an outdoor area of the suite.
Like U2 shot a video there?
Yeah, U2 shot a video, yeah. In the Clarence, yeah. I mean, I guess when they bought the place, and you can book that suite. It ain't all that. It's not like an amazing suite, but there's an outdoor area, like a terrace. You know, a terrace, but it's a weird looking terrace. And
why don't we just play the video so we can get blocked?
Mind you, listen, apart from the Shelburne, by the way, is the one I was mentioning, just a wonderful hotel. What a great view of the park.
It
The
has that
Marion,
private
the
club.
Marion, man, the Marion. Woo.
Oh, is that your favorite? Is that over the
No,
Shelburne?
Shelburne's my favorite. Shelburne's
Oh.
my favorite, especially because of that late night bar that you
Yeah.
can just get anything you want till like
Yeah.
5 a.m. It's
It's
just
like a private bar too for your
Yeah.
certain level guest.
There's a grand piano.
Yeah.
We were playing the grand piano last time. I was teaching the ex how to play.
Is it a nice one?
It's I think it's a no, it's not a Steinway. I can't remember what it is. There are very few Steinways in Ireland, believe it or not.
I believe it.
The Marion, man, what a hotel. Whoa. If you really want to be fancy in Dublin, the Marion.
Is that the one?
Marks. Yeah. But yeah, we could go on about hotels now for like 6 hours, so we better get off here.
That is enough.
So next time, let's talk
on that shit.
Yeah, we could do a whole channel talking about beautiful hotels. We're just obsessed with gorgeous hotels, myself and Dark. So let's talk about Sexy Beast and hotels in the next one. That'll be an easy one. All right. Thank you all.
I'm looking at a picture real quick, a picture of the piano, and it's from the side, and it's got an art case. And I'm going to say from this, it looks like a Bechstein to me.
Okay.
My guess.
Okay. You're
Till
probably
next
right.
time.
Okay, guys. Thanks for hanging out
Thanks,
during the day. Something fresh and new. We'll be back
good.
at the weekend when I have a few drinks in me and like sit back and watch Dirk do the hard lefts instead of me. Take it easy, guys.